Hello, it's Magdalena, Wolf of Coins. I thought I would make a video to explain a bit to those who cannot understand how you can be a fan of such a deck as Tarot de Marseille. So I will tell you my reasons. I will also add that when I have first seen Tarot de Marseille images, it was in some tarot book. I didn't think they were pretty. I thought they were like, ooh, really, well, possibly ugly, uninteresting. I thought that there are many other decks that are more pleasant and that I would rather use. But over time and by seeing some restored decks and reading some Tarot de Marseille books, and by using Tarot de Marseille finally, I changed my mind, so maybe you will too. So yeah, first thing, it's an old deck, of course, you probably know that, but as opposed to, for example, Wade Smith or Thoth deck, there is no known author, no one known origin of the deck, so there is no master to tell you how you are supposed to work with this deck, how you are supposed to see the cards, how to interpret them. So it gives you a great freedom, and yeah, for me it is very liberating not to think that I'm probably interpreting this wrong because I didn't pay attention to all the astrological associations or other, like, I don't know, Hebrew letters or whatever. It might be stressful for me. Anyway, so yeah, so it gives you a kind of freedom. And secondly, Tarot de Marseille never stops to surprise you with details that you haven't seen before, and you all of a sudden realize they are there. They are surprisingly many connections between the cards. Everything feels so interlaced, connected, because the cards are very, as I always say, minimalistic, and that is what also won my heart. There are many elements that repeat themselves through the cards, and it connects them, it makes them a really consistent structure, and I love that. I love me some structure. So I thought I would give you examples because I can be explaining to you why it's also awesome, but I thought that the best way would be just to show you some pictures, because that's the easiest way to understand, I think. So, for example, about the connections between the cards that you can find yourself, like Sherlock Holmes a little bit. So in Jodorowsky and Costa's book, The Way of Tarot, there is discussed the transition of the chords. So if we take the World card, some people believe that this is like a portrait of the whole deck. So like this is the major arcana, and these four animals would be the suits. And Jodorowsky thinks that the bull is the coins, the lion is the wands. I think he says that the eagle is the cups, and the angel is the swords. But I think it depends on your opinions. Anyway, what's interesting is how you find that, for example, we get a Knight of Coins. In Jodorowsky's book, he explains how, in his opinion, the knight should be the last of the court, not the king, but the knight, because he is traveling and taking the court to the next level. So he is a Knight of Coins, but you can see here that he actually has a baton, a wand here, which I find extremely cool. And next up, you could see here, this is the Ten of Cups, and you should take a close look at this this part, this cap of the cup. It's very similar to the flower you get on the coin cards. So as we have, oh my goodness, of course I cannot find it. Oh yeah, it's here. So there's a flower that we also find here. There is a flower, so they are connected. And also the 10 is a culmination of the chord. And other than that, he also says that in the Ace of Cups, oh my goodness, I love this card, it's so beautiful. Oh, by the way, the deck I'm using to show this to you is the fabulous deck, Edition Millennium Tarot, a restored deck. It's awesome. And so yes, if you can look at this tip, it's very similar to the swords on other cards. So for example, if we get the Ace of Swords, we have this flower and this tip here, it looks like it's being born in this card. I think it's pretty cool, like it grows here, but it starts in this one. And next, what I wanted to talk about is the connections between some cards. Like for example, we can see again, zoom. These two cards are really, their structure is so similar. It's the Lover and the Judgment card. So Arcanum 20 and 6. So we have three figures here and an angel up there. So if we were to read them, they could tell us about how the situation of these people is changing. But I will talk about this more a bit later. We would get, for example, these two. It's the Fool and the Unnamed. In most of Tarot de Marseille, it's an unnamed Arcanum 13, commonly known also as Death. They look like, well, in this edition, Death is facing that way, but in my, for example, in my Jodorowsky-Camoin deck, they are like, Jodorowsky says that this looks like an X-ray of the Fool almost, because we have this line, his walking stick, and the sight, and they are also a bit like bending forwards. But yeah, also we could see some important features, like them being mirror reflections of each other, and what connects them as well. The Fool has a name but no number, and this card has a number but no name. And I love it that you can see so many connections between the cards. It's just amazing for me. So this all, and well, yeah, all those features of Tarot de Marseille allow you to use a reading technique known as the open reading, which in which you don't necessarily stick to the predetermined meanings of the cards, but you just see what is being formed in front of your eyes. So it gives you really a lot of freedom as well, and you can rely on your intuition. So this is different. It's not like one card will always mean the same thing. Well, I think in other decks it is like that as well, but it's very prominent in the open reading, I'd say. And the eye rhymes, about which Enrique Enriquez talks about, what are the eye rhymes? There are things that you see similar on various cards. So you get two people on this card, two people on that card, and you see how they change, like with this, right? Here they are, for example, they are clothed, here they have no clothes, how it can, what it can mean in the given situation. But also, for example, we could follow an object, because there are so many objects that appear on many cards in different variations. So we could, for example, follow a sword that we find on the Justice card. Okay, it's in her hand. Then we can see that some weird creature is holding it in its paw, and then it's a knight. So what could it mean? We can again think about how the sword is traveling, and it could give us interpretation. For example, we could also follow what happens to people, as I said. So there are so many examples. Like first we get these two people chained here, then they are in front of the Pope, and then they are, yay, happy and naked and free, right? So it changes like this, and it can give us some ideas for the interpretation here if we find some similar points to the situation we're reading about, right? There are also like two things, like things or animals or whatever. That doesn't have to be always same objects. So we have these two animals here, and then next card could be this one. So they are being manipulated. Here they were free, running free during the night, and here they are being manipulated. So these two objects in his hands, like this wand and a ball. So now they used to be free, but now somebody's controlling them. Something like that. And a sip of tea. Yeah, oh, I needed some tea. So all this searching for eye rhymes, I think it's a great stimulation for your brain, for your imagination. It's really good. Also, we could follow, was this, I had this example with the Emperor. So we could see about the scepter. It's in his hand. Then it grows into a huge branch, and oops, and then it's in the hands again of the Knight of Coins, and it's traveling somewhere. So yeah, this I wanted to show you. And not only we could follow, not only find the same object, but also see what sequence of transformation it goes through. So, example, if you got something like this. First card, okay, we have 4 cups. Okay, 4 cups. It's a 4, so it's a stable situation, but no craziness here. Then we get the star, and what she's doing, he has these 2 pitchers, so cups, pitchers, similar, and so we had 4, and 2 of them are being emptied, and the third card could be this one, right? So we emptied 2 of 4 cups, and we are left with only 2. However, this card has much more life on it than this one. It seems more less expressive. I would say there's much more going on here. So maybe emptying these 2 cups was a good thing to do, and now we are in a better situation. So that might be the interpretation there. And then you can use numerology for the pips, but you don't necessarily have to. You just look at what you see and you try to interpret it in the most obvious way. It's usually good to do that. But if you have no inspiration, then of course you can use numerological associations for this, which is great, because it's always, you know, good to have other techniques up your sleeve. What else is interesting in Tarot de Marseille? It's fascinating to follow the gazes of people there. So of course there are less people than in Rider-Waite-Smith decks, but there are still some, like almost major arcanas, and then we get all the court cards. So, you know, for example, we could have these 2 cards together, and we follow the gazes. So the queen is obviously looking at her coin, and in this situation the king of batons is also looking at the coin. He's facing her, and specifically he's looking at the coin. So what could it mean? Well, of course, again, depending on the situation, this could be that he is interested in doing some business with her, right? The coin, doing business together. Or if it's a relationship reading, it might mean that he is more interested in her money than in herself. So yeah, the gazes are fun. And then if we had them like this, you know, if they appeared on the table like this, it would mean that they are not really interested in each other, that they probably won't collaborate, or they won't have any relationship, possibly. So that's important there. Another example I have here. Okay, here. Yeah, I'm using cards from 2 decks because I would be completely lost with only one, because I'm using one card for multiple uses. Yeah. Okay, like this. So if we had a 3-card spread, visible. Oh, it's harder to hold 3 cards. Yeah. So let's first show these 2. So let's say we have a situation like this: the Queen of Batons and the King of Cups. So she's looking fondly on him, maybe even on this cup in his hand. So it means she might have some warm feelings towards him, but he's facing a different direction, and he's looking here. So either there is another lady, like a very serious lady he's interested in, or he's not interested in relationships right now, he's more concerned about some other matters. It doesn't have to necessarily be connected to law, but yeah, it might be the situation. So we have this, and oh yeah, next up, scary pips. Because if you are not used to decks that have pips, you all very often have a barrier for using pip decks, because you're afraid, like I was as well, that you see this and you're like, okay, what does it tell me about the situation? It's just 6 round objects and I have no idea whatsoever. So yeah, the pips are not really bad. I love these pips. And I also wanted to do a disclaimer about names we use. So very often I hear that these are non-illustrated pips. I think it's a pretty much illustrated card. Just look how beautiful it is. That's the first thing. There is a lot of things going on, and it is, by all means, it is an illustration. If you're not convinced, try to draw that picture. It's not easy. So yeah, so I'm all for using the term non-scenic pips as opposed to non-illustrated, because they are definitely illustrations. But yeah, so how do you read them? Of course, you will often hear that you can use the chord plus the number to interpret. But there are also those eye rhymes, as I showed you before with the cups. Like we have these 4 cups and then the star is emptying 2 containers. That's this way. We have these sequences. There is a reason why I don't really do many spreads other than 3-card or 3-card sequences readings with Tarot de Marseille, because when you do, for example, Celtic Cross, you have 1 card for 1 little question, let's say, like a position of the card. And for me, the greatest beauty of Tarot de Marseille is when you can find this sequence, these eye rhymes, these connections between cards. So I would say at least 2, but I love to do 3-card readings, and they give me so much information. Or just a simple message, but it's a message that I need to know. So I would be, rather than having an answer for my question only with this 1 card, I would prefer to draw 3 cards. So yeah. Other than that, the famous foliage from Tarot de Marseille. This is one of my favorite pip cards, and it's the 2 of Swords. And goodness, look at this beautiful flower. So there are many instances of additional elements, not only 4 swords, 2 swords, but there are other things that can inspire you. If you get, I don't know, again, a card where you have 2 objects and then you see these 2 flowers, you can somehow relate them. Also in the whole order of the court, you can see how the foliage is changing and how it blooms or how it withers. it also can suggest some interpretations. Here is the 5 of coins. I often see it like this one coin is being singled out, so it's either something important or it's something that we try to hide from others. Yeah, many possibilities here. And oh, another thing, you might not believe it if you are a die-hard Rider-Waite-Smith reader, but actually I get the feeling, and that's not only me, because I've heard other people who tried Marseille to say it, that these non-scenic pips, they actually give you more space. They give you also more freedom, because you don't necessarily have, like with the 5 of coins, you don't necessarily have two poor beggars in the snow. You can interpret it in so many more ways. But it also helps you focus on the trumps, so the most important cards in the deck, because your attention is instantly drawn to people cards. So after reading with Marseille for some time, you can find that you're a bit distracted by all the pictures everywhere. You might not believe me, but that's how it happens sometimes. So I hope this video was helpful to you if you got interested in Marseille, but you're scared that it's so difficult and unreadable. That's not true. There are so many fascinating ways to have fun with Marseille, and I find it truly magical. If you have any questions, please comment. If you have any other comments, please comment. I love comments. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you real soon. Bye!